Hi, and welcome back to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast, a weekly conversation with women who found their home in the Mojave Desert. I'm your host, Dawn Davis, and this is episode number 10. If you're a first-time listener, welcome, and if you're a returning listener, thanks so much for coming back. Our website is desertladydiaries.com, and you can also follow us or participate in the conversation on social media by following us on Facebook or Instagram at Desert Lady Diaries. And you can call us with questions or comments at 760-392-1293. This week, I'm talking to Pamela Goodchild, who moved to the desert about a year and a half ago. Though we didn't talk much about it, Pamela is an excellent singer and has worked with a lot of great artists. You can find her musical work at Reverb Nation. If you downloaded the podcast, that link will be in the show notes. If you listen from the website, you can find that link on the blog page in Pamela's profile. Most of what we talked about in this episode is what prompted her to move to the desert and the process of finding the home that she's living in now, and how the desert can be both beastly and beautiful. Hi, and welcome back to Desert Lady Diaries. Today's guest is Pamela Goodchild. She is a financial and accounting business owner. She's a musician and an artist. She's done a lot of backup singing for a lot of people you probably know. And she spent some time in Austin for the music scene, about 5 years, but then hustled it back to LA because she couldn't get enough of California. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. So, how long have you been a permanent resident of the desert?
I am almost at a year and a half.
What was your first encounter with the desert in general? Not thinking about moving here, just coming out here and going, oh, here's the desert.
So I kind of came out here because my landlord gave me a phone call that was basically the owner wanted to raise the rent $700.
Ouch.
And I started looking to move in various places in LA, and to make a long story short, my friend said, what about Joshua Tree? And I said, there's no way. I'm a beach girl. I'm not going to the desert. And one day I was online and I just put in Joshua Tree and I saw this amazing, beautiful modern house. And I thought, if that house is in Joshua Tree, I might be able to go to the desert.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Yeah.
So you'd never been here before, never visited the park or any of that stuff?
Never.
Or gone to like other desert places like Death Valley or anything like that?
Not particularly.
Did you drive to Austin?
I did.
Okay, so you went through the desert.
I'm on my way to somewhere else through the desert.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So you got here attracted by the house, per se.
Yes.
And then once you got here, what was your sense of the area?
So the first time I came out, I was on an appointment to see that house. And what I had planned that day was to drive around and see neighborhoods, what was where. So I came out, I looked at a lot of neighborhoods and drove around a lot of different areas, including Yucca Valley. And I showed up at the house and I could see it was closer to the park area. I think it's called Friendly Hills area. And I thought, oh, this is a really, really great area. So I saw the house and I fell in love and I thought, this is my house. The first encounter was me, basically, I've fallen in love with this house. And then I started looking around because I made an offer shortly thereafter. They didn't accept. So I thought, well, I better look at other options because you never know what'll happen. So then I started exploring, which really looked more like I had 12 houses to look at every day, and drive by and look at neighborhoods where they were, because online you don't know what you're looking at.
So that was your introduction to Joshua Tree, essentially, was house shopping, not necessarily, oh, I really like the way it feels here, or that moment that a lot of people have of coming here, visiting, and thinking, there's something special here and I need to come. Yours was more driven by, I need to come out and my economic situation is not really working for me and I need to find another way.
Right. However, I do think I was really ready to leave LA. I was in that world of, my best friend was in North Hollywood, I was in Culver City, and she'd be like, let's have dinner. I'd think, I'm not getting on the freeway again because I'd be driving, an hour to and from a client. Maybe I'd go to 2 clients in a day and I would be in the car for 3 hours in that day. I would get home and not want to leave. And I really felt bogged down by the sense of non-community. Maybe I would see my friends once a week, once every 2 weeks. So when I thought about moving to a smaller place, I knew that this was a potential of that. And the second I drove through the village, I thought, oh, it's a village. That means there must be community here.
Right.
In some level, I could see that there was places people were actually sitting and conversing and meeting.
You have this house and you're in love with it, and what happens?
So I'm frustrated because they're not accepting my offer. And so I realize I have to figure out plan B, because the original issue was I can't really find anything in LA that I'm finding it's acceptable. Whether it's a rental, I was going to buy a condo also. I didn't want to buy a house for $800,000, and the areas that I would live in were pretty much that. So I don't know. I just kept kind of doing the footwork. I kept just looking at rentals, and then I kept looking here, and I would do all this work during the week on the computer, just looking at the different real estate websites. And I would print out these houses, and I would try to find real estate agents to show me their listings rather than get a real estate agent to drive me around, because I just thought I need more education. Where did I want to be? This house that I found was an anomaly here, and I could see that there was nothing like it, and most of what I started looking at was really not what I wanted. So I thought, well, I don't have to move at the moment. I was planning on it, but I just thought I'm going to take my time and really, I fell in love with Western Hills. I was like, I've got to be by the boulders. And then someone said, there's a lot of snakes here. And I thought, but don't the snakes live in the boulders? And I thought, I don't want to live in the boulders.
Right.
I don't want my house, wrapped around, snakes wrapped around my house.
Right. Or, just traveling through the yard. And
yeah, I'm not that wilderness-ish. I'm an avid hiker, but I'm not an avid
like a pioneer woman
person. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't want the snakes. So that made me look at sort of other areas, and then I was convinced it's got to be Joshua Tree. Yucca Valley is not. I just looked around and thought, I don't think those are my people, really. That kind of brings me to months later. I thought, I cannot find something I want, and it might take me a while because I'm super picky and I have a really aesthetic that I prefer. So I started looking at some of the rentals that were popping up, and I saw one rental that was really funky with cement countertops and bright colors and just very, very different. And I thought, I'm going to look at that rental. What if I just move out and rent, and while I'm looking for a place to live? I met Peter Spur, that was his listing. And, well, I called him first. I said, I'd like to look at this. And I said, to be honest with you, I'm also looking for a place to buy. If you have anything you would like to show me that is similar to what you have in this listing. So I came out, met him, saw the rental, and he showed me about 6 places, and he showed me the house that I ended up buying.
How did that go when you walked in the door? Was there this moment of, this is it?
I think I was walking around and I thought, oh, it's so open. And I was going through the checklist of things that I liked. And after I left, I thought I could see myself living there. This is a place that I could live in. Well, he had also mentioned that there was already a cash offer on it. And I thought, well, I'm out. There's no way I can compete with that, because a cash offer, they get the money that day and they're done. There's no...
Right, no process,
not really. They go through inspection, but, on the back end, there's sometimes problems with loans, which I was approved, but you never know what'll happen as far as they're concerned. And so most buyers will take a cash offer. So I left and I was like, well, Peter, this place is really great. Too bad there's a cash offer. And he said, yeah. He said, you can still make an offer. And I was like, I'm not going to bother. It's
not going to get my hopes up.
I'm already heartbroken. My heart is with the modern house that at this point had not sold, but they would not engage me with my offer. I couldn't figure out why. The listing agent wouldn't really give me feedback. I found out later why, but basically, I went to my friends in Palm Springs. We were going to go have dinner and hang out, and I was going to bunk up overnight and maybe look at more houses on Sunday. And as I was talking to her, I just heard myself, I really like that house. This is great about it. This is great. Oh, do you know this about it? I was saying all these great points. And it occurred to me, like, why don't you just make an offer?
What's the worst that can happen? They can only say no, and you heard that before.
Exactly. So. Yeah. And why don't you just do that? And I thought, yeah, why don't I? And I asked my friend, I said, what do you think? And she's like, why not? Like you said, there's nothing to lose.
Right.
So I called Peter and he said, well, I'm the listing agent, so I can't. I said, you could do both sides of this deal. I don't really mind, And he said, I've got someone that can work on the deal for you. So I came the next morning and I made an offer, and I was aggressive and did the things that you have to do, like write a letter why you want that house.
Oh, wow.
Which means I'm a single woman. I'm in Los Angeles and I'm looking to move because I basically don't want to spend all my potential retirement money on a rental. And besides the fact I hate the traffic, and Venice is not my home anymore, and Culver City really isn't either, so I'm ready to move. And I also thought I was bringing a lot to the table for the community because I have my own business. I didn't need to come here and get a job.
Right.
And it was kind of obvious to me that there weren't a lot of jobs. So it just felt like a perfect fit. And that's what I told the owner in much shorter terms,
So she gets your letter and your offer. And what happens?
Which I offered more than asking.
Wow.
Because I actually have clients that I help in this process with the whole real estate purchasing, selling. And I know that when you're a serious buyer, you really make a serious offer. I have no idea how much the other offer was, but I thought she needs to know that I'm serious by the letter and by my offer. So I made it very appealing to her because by Sunday morning, I was really clear. I want that house. It's not the house I really want, and my heart's broken, but I want this house.
Right.
So I went home Sunday night, and I got a call from Peter Spur. You got the house.
Wow.
The next day.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm moving.
Now I have to really go.
I'm really moving. Keeping in mind that I had moved to Austin in 1988, and that was really far from LA. I knew that I could always get on a plane back to LA, but it seemed I'm really moving out of town, and oh my God, I'm going to miss my friends and my favorite this and my favorite that. I knew because of my clients that I thought I would have to go back to LA once a week, and that I would go for 1 or 2 days and come back home. What turned out to be, I go every 2 weeks. I stay sometimes 2 to 4 days, and there's not much to miss. When you go back to LA, you're like, wow, this traffic is crazy, and I still can't really see my friends because we're too busy, and it just makes me not miss it.
Right. It reminds you of why you moved. Like, I'm ready for something different and a community that I'm not getting in LA. Right.
And I really felt like it's not that far. So if I was going to miss anybody or if something was going to be problematic, I could always go there. And I could always be there. So.
Well, that was when I was moving. I knew that the voiceover work would be fine because I can do that from anywhere. It was the acting side of things that I was concerned about. And I knew there were a number of theaters here, which I have since gotten involved in, and it's been great. And one night, one of the trips I made out just to kind of check things out here, I was driving home and I'm like, oh, but what about my acting? How's that going to be affected? And then I remembered living in Orlando and driving to Miami 4 hours each way, driving to Atlanta 6 hours each way, driving to North Carolina, driving to New Orleans just for auditions or 2 words or just come up. They like the way you look. And you get in the car and you do that. And I'm like, well, this is only about 2.5 hours from LA. Certainly, that was like going to Tampa from Orlando for an audition. So that kind of sealed it for me, too. It was like, yes, I have friends there. And yes, there's a lot of cool stuff there. But at the end of the day, I can get there pretty quickly if I need to, want to, have to. And in the meantime, I've got a beautiful place to live.
Right. That is exactly how I felt. It did not seem risky at all. And my rent was pretty much the same amount that I'm paying now for actually a 15-year mortgage. I'm doubled up on the mortgage and taxes and insurance all rolled into one. It was a financial gain for me to leave. Besides the fact of, my car insurance went down. There's a lot of things that you save money on living in a smaller place,
Right.
I think.
Well, and that then opens up your, quote unquote, disposable income to enjoy maybe other experiences, maybe traveling more or, seeing more shows or things like that. So that's always a win.
Right. And I'm, as probably everyone else says, there's so much more to do here, and I will do it. I can go out like we did the other night, on a Tuesday night, and go out and see a play and be home by 10 o'clock. You can't do that in LA.
No.
And it's exhausting in LA to drive, wherever you're going.
Speaking of all the things there are to do out here, I think that's been a thread actually through all of the interviews that I've done so far, is that there is so much, whether you're in the music scene, whether you're in the art scene. I mean, there's even like bingo, and somebody's having a create something night where you go and they're painting glasses or teaching you how to do that. So there is all kinds of stuff. Where has a lot of your time been focused on in that arena?
I am loving the art here, whether it's Noah Purifoy or a gallery opening in 29 Palms or the Palm Springs Museum. I love it all. So I do that. I'm very into the Second Saturday scene because I feel like this is my village and these are my people.
Right.
And they really focus on local artists, which I really appreciate, I think, more. I love the social events. Bobby First is always amazing. It's like eye candy there. I love looking at his aesthetic, and he always seems, I go there and there's something different, and he's improving and building, and that's something I aspire to for myself with my property. He's gone before me, and I like watching the little bit. I've only, haven't been there that many times, but I see evolution in his creativity. And I do love music. I'm nuts for Pappy and Harriet's. I love their salmon salads, vegetables, like everything to eat, and that I can sit down and have dinner and watch a band. I saw Paul McCartney there. I couldn't say more about, never even occurred to me I could put that on my bucket list.
No.
And here I am, and there are opportunities here for nature. It's crazy. This morning I walked out and there was this giant lizard walking across my, where my table is outside, and some of the nature stuff is really hard to watch because they're eating each other and things like that,
right.
But
survival of the fittest sort of thing.
It kind of funneled down to me like, this is life here. And being brought up in the city, and even Austin was, there's 250,000 people there, but it was still a city, and I wasn't rural at all. There was some things, mostly ants, that I saw on my property, but here it's really, you see life, and it's rough here. Right. It's not very forgiving. No. I can really see the truth about that, and I've only mostly seen that, which I don't like to watch those nature channels where the lion's chasing the cheetah,
right? Or the caribou, and then ripping it to shreds.
Yeah, I can't watch that stuff, so I've kind of avoided it. And
no vegans in the animal kingdom. Right. Well, I guess there probably are. They're not lions, though. Right. And those aren't the shows they normally show. No. Like watching a giraffe eat the top of a tree is not really what they show. No. So I'm like, wow, what's going on here? How do I live with this? And I think this is, you gotta adjust your thinking, right? And I'm not a meat eater, and I have a lot of issues around hunting, and I'm against the way I was brought up. I was just, you're not supposed to kill anything for any reason, and that includes ants and mosquitoes and things. So it's been a little much for me, but I feel like I'm more balanced as a human because that's not realistic. That's cool. Yeah. And how about, we talk about there's so much to do. And then there's also this idea of it's so quiet here. And there are a lot of people that I know and that live out here by themselves. So do you find yourself ever feeling isolated in your place? And is there any of that, like, because you want to be isolated for whatever reason? How does that play into your life these days in the desert?
Well, I have the propensity to isolate in my life. And part of it is because I own my own business and I've chosen not to grow my business. So it's me, sometimes another sort of outside contractor. Mm. There's times when I do engage people to help me with my business, but it's overall me by myself usually. And that means I wake up in the morning and I work at my computer all day and I'm not talking to anybody other than being on the phone. So I do feel isolated. And I also have to say that I work hard to not feel that way. So I will take my lunch outside. At least I'm with the animals, right? The birds and the squirrels and the lizards and everybody that's out there. Mm-hmm. But I do try to make sure that I don't isolate because that's been going on for many, many years. But I am also very social. So I can find a way to just look something up online. Facebook's been amazing with all our groups, and I see invitations and certainly my friends. Mm-hmm. This is going on. Do you want to do it? And I usually go. If it's so easy like it is here, why not go? I also feel like what really helped me is I moved away before. So I already knew what that was like. But when I moved to Austin, I was very active musically, which meant I hit the ground running and started getting gigs and put a band together. And immediately when you're a musician, you already have a bunch of friends after the first show.
Right, right, yeah.
Whether they're the other musicians you play with or on the bill, but there's also people, you get them to be on your email list and things like that. So I knew that I could do that. It seemed a little more different today for me because I'm older and I'm not going out every night like I was at that time.
Sure.
But I also feel like I'm a little more purposeful about it. So I would focus more on, I want to take that class that's in the park next Sunday, or I'm going to go to the second Saturday and they're having jazz across the street at the Dandelion. So I'm going to sit there and just say hello to people. Or
right. That's actually how we met.
Yeah.
Going out one night, just individually to a place, and we crossed the street from one side to the other. I think we were at Harrison House.
Yeah.
Pamela sat down at a table for about 4 people, and no one else was there. And I said, hey, do you have enough chairs? Can I join you? And she was like, sure. And the rest is history.
Yeah. That was so
and that's
great.
kind of, so have you found that also happened with other people here organically, just being at events and starting, conversations with people, and that's how you're finding your community here?
Yeah, some people, but I have to say 2 of my really good friends have recently moved. One moved to Yucca Valley about 3 months ago, and about 6 months ago, another friend of mine had 85 years her cabin was in her family. Her uncle and her dad actually built the cabin on the property, and she moved in about 6 months ago. So that kind of not only building the community, but that added to my community. And that's been really great because now they're meeting people and introducing me. So we're growing a little bit more of a community. I went to the community breakfast once, but that didn't really seem like I was going to meet people and make friends there. I don't know why. I think things happen in different ways for me.
Right.
And I'm friendly and I like a lot of people, but I don't really connect with that many people. Like with you, I really felt like we could connect and we had a lot in common. Right. We could actually hang out.
Right. Yeah.
Part of that is because I think I'm single and a lot of people are not single here.
Right. That's true.
And it feels third wheelish a little bit,
sometimes. Yeah.
I also think that if I was actively pursuing music full time, that I would meet a lot more people and forge closer relationships quicker. But because my work actually is in my home, where music was outside the home amongst social experiences, it's very different now. I'm kind of okay with that. I don't need to be alone and I don't need to be with people. I'm somewhere in the middle these days.
Yeah, I feel similar. I really enjoy my space and being by myself and just the quiet, reading, working on, art projects or dragging the flute out and playing for a little while. And then if I do want some interaction, I know the places that I can go to get that, whether it's just people are around me and I don't interact, Or there are people there that I know, or I know going to a certain place that I will know somebody there.
Right.
So, yeah, it kind of works both ways.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go to picking a question.
Excellent.
Out of the jar.
I like it.
And you can read the question so everyone knows what you're answering. This is Emily's jar. If you're tuning in for the first time, these are questions from my 17-year-old niece just about life.
Okay. How do I know where to live? Should I get an apartment or house or condo? When I was young, all I needed was a roommate because it was always better to have a roommate. Your best friend is usually who you move in with, right? And you
in some cases, yeah.
So and it depends upon if you're in a city. So growing up in LA, there wasn't many rental houses. I'm not making very much money when I'm 18 years old. So I go get an apartment. It depends upon where you are. Then the other factor is, then when I was 21, I got 2 dogs. And it's not easy to have dogs in an apartment. So then I started looking to rent houses. And I found with houses, there's a lot of upkeep. And sometimes landlords don't do that. And they say, well, you mow the lawn, which I didn't really want to do. So maybe a condo is better. It's sort of in between. I see condos as apartment living unless you want to buy.
Right.
You know? And I always think buying is better. If I had to do it over again, I would start buying when I started making my first dollars. Because the price of what you're buying when you're that age and what's going to be 10 years down the road, it's always going to increase. And I wish I could have bought in Venice for nothing. I could have bought in the Palisades in Malibu and Topanga for barely anything. And
right.
I wish I would have done that.
I think that's what people are doing now in Detroit.
Yeah.
It's kind of cold there. My friend has an opportunity to go there and live rent-free. There are 2 houses that a friend of hers bought, probably for just a steal. And she needs somebody to go there. She lives in LA, but she bought these 2 places in Detroit, and she needs somebody to go there and live and keep an eye on the places. That's the other thing. Like, where's the next cool, hip place where all the artists are going? And many seem to be coming here to Joshua Tree. And then, Detroit, I think, is the up-and-comer that's happening.
Yeah, I was hearing that Detroit you could buy a house for $15,000.
Wow. Well, that's probably why she did it then. Yeah. Interesting. So as we wrap, any advice you would offer to anyone considering moving to the desert?
It's hot here.
So your advice would be?
Be sure that you can deal with weather change. I did realize that 95 degrees here, when it's not got clouds and humidity, feels like 85 in LA. And it feels a lot better to me. I actually had heat issues before I moved here, so I didn't see how I was going to actually deal with that. But you also have to respect what I was saying, what you learn. This is a harsh way of living.
Yeah.
So you can't go outside at 10 a.m. and start building something, or fixing the roof. You have to learn to wake up at 5 and go outside, and you're done working outside by 9 because it's 90 degrees at 9, and the sun starts to get strong. And I think I also was really sort of getting on track of, I'm going to retire sooner than later. And I could really be in a place that I don't need the theater to be the best theater with the best this and the most fabulous, newest this and that. I kind of done all those things.
Right.
It seems like the younger people that come here are really creative people, and they are creating art because you can afford to live on less money here. And I think that's a really great thing.
Right.
For young people. And if you're older, it is kind of getting on track to, I could see myself being here for a lot of years because it's a nice lifestyle. The quality is really lovely to be able to do everything that we get to do here.
Yeah, it is. Well, I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm really glad you got to meet Pamela today. Thanks so much for listening to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast. There are so many ways you could spend your time, so thanks for spending it here with us. I hope you got some insight and inspiration, and if you did, I hope you'll share that with me and the other listeners on the Desert Lady Diaries Facebook page. If there was something you want to follow up on, you'll probably find that in the show notes or on the website. And if you're enjoying this podcast, I hope you'll share it with a friend. Next week, I'm talking to Megan Hutch, a musician and a new business owner here in the desert. She talks about the difficulty and overwhelm of determining one's path and taking the open road to find it, and how transformative that can be. She also talks about finding and building her musical community, getting comfortable with herself on stage and her voice, and we might even get to hear a little bit of her music from her soon-to-be-released EP, Alchemy. I hope you'll join us. Thanks so much for listening.